Fitness, a drug for some and aspirational for others. Many spend hours in the gyms to build their bodies. From the outside, it all sounds like a dream world built around the idea of great health. But it has a seedy underbelly. Open a magazine or a newspaper or see billboards. You'll see hordes of advertisements. Gyms have become a huge industry. Earlier, gym membership was seen as a part of luxury, but now it has become a part of people's lifestyle. Franchising of fitness gyms is also catching up really fast. Multinational fitness chains and gyms are increasingly taking the franchise route to enter the Indian market. Many national and international players are mushrooming into the segment. The gym culture is apparent in urban areas and metros, but you will be surprised to know that it is seeping into the rural India as well. It's Bollywood and Hollywood celebrities flaunting their sculpted toned bodies and setting unrealistic body standards to strive for. Aerobic workouts were once a rage for Bollywood divas in the 80s. The other bigger rival are protein powders and steroids. Many say that they wreak havoc on our bodies, but others are selling the bulking up powders. It's an industry estimated to be sitting at around $18 billion. The Chinese market is the second largest in the world, with an estimated value of $21.3 billion in 2019. Many working in the industry say that health is an ideal scenario for any population, but the debasing of it by greedy industry will continue to bring it disrepute. Aditi Dubey for Democracy News Live.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Democracy News Live. We have for you another special episode of It Matters. We're going to talk about the dilemmas of the fitness industry. But moreover, we're going to discuss on how gyms have become intriguing spaces, not only limited to fitness enthusiasts, but also allowing and enabling trainers and specialists to climb the social ladder and become part of the socio-economic elite. We have a very special panel of guests joining us today. We have Michael Bass. He's an author of Muscular India, an intriguing book that has brought forward the discussion of the status of trainers across India and how gyms have been operating and how trainers are moving towards a different lifestyle altogether, trying to adapt to the new modern societal world. Also joining us is Rita Singh. She is a female bodybuilder. She's won many competitions and also is a judge at the International Federation for Bodybuilding and Fitness. Also on the show, we have who is a strength and conditioning specialist and a very well-known gym trainer and instructor across the world. Thank you all of you for joining us on the program today.
Thanks.
Beginning with you, Michael. In your book, Muscular India, you talk about the journey of fitness trainers around India. You've been with most of them. You've seen their lifestyles. You've seen their struggles. Do tell us a little bit about that.
So the research that I conducted for the book was took place across 4 cities over roughly about a decade, on and off, of course, with the heavy points of the research taking place in Delhi and Chennai, but I also conducted lots of interviews in Bangalore and in Mumbai.
You know, in your book, you very evidently mentioned that language has always been a barrier for these young trainers who are striving out and, trying to make a name for themselves, even though they are, they have these developed muscles and ab-toned bodies. But at the end of the day, when it comes to finding clients, one of the many barriers is language.
Yeah, I think our language in general in India is an incredible class barrier, especially within a middle class context. So the way I approach the middle class in this book is it's basically divided between a lower or a newer middle class, an upwardly mobile middle class, and an older established middle class. And that it's easiest to illustrate this based on a Delhi example. The upper middle class tends to reside in GK, GK1, GK2, South Delhi, whereas the newer middle class comes from more peripheral areas. And these guys who become fitness trainers are generally native Hindi speakers. They will have received their education in Hindi all their lives, and but meanwhile, of course, they've been practicing their English, and they realize fully that to climb the middle class ladder is also means to master English in a much better way. And fitness training provides an opportunity to learn that, but it at the same time is a dead giveaway in terms of your place within the middle class and where you come from.
Right, and Declan, you've been a strength and conditioning specialist, and you would help us understand when you started out. Did you also face similar difficulties and perhaps barriers when it comes to language or when it comes to approaching the urban elite client?
Maybe language, I wouldn't say I had a problem. One, probably because, my ancestry is from Goa, and, language, English has never been a problem. And also, my education. Like I finished my graduation in sports science in South Africa, then did my post-graduation in England. And then, of course, I decided to come back and work more on the lines of athlete training. But I do realize that, yes, there's a section of trainers for whom language does become a problem. Because firstly, not everybody wants to grow up and become a gym trainer. If somebody has to ask a parent, what would you want your child to be? Nobody's going to say a gym trainer, So that job becomes sort of a very class-based job where people from a certain strata of society tend to come in. Generally, maybe not able to speak English, maybe not having the same mannerisms as well as the middle class. And Michael's book, I think that's what I mean. I haven't finished the whole thing yet, but when I read through it, I could just see, I finished the first chapter, and he brings that out brilliantly. That it's the class difference. A trainer who have a very good body, he or she is dealing, with a CEO of a company or a bank, probably manager. Then the class of how you deal, the mannerisms, how you address women, how you talk to guys, I think that comes in. Definitely, yes, I would say there is a difference in class, and a lot of trainers improve, become better. They start to understand the sort of class that they serve. And I think the good ones adapt and move on. Some of them don't, and then they just stay back at their old level.
Right, and Rita, as a female bodybuilder yourself, competed in various other competitions around the globe and won many of them, and now a judge at one of these competitions as well. What has your experience been like?
As a bodybuilder, yes, I started pretty early, and there was a lot of misconceptions about women doing weight training. So I always faced a lot of resistance. And I started at a time when there were really no women at all. And so I had the advantages and disadvantages both of that. For me, if you think from the competitive point of view, the federation was a huge task to get through a letter and go and compete, and of course the social limitations of being a female bodybuilder because of the in the Indian society we have a very orthodox section also, and it is not really looked upon with as much respect. Having the discussion regarding language is of course very relevant. It is extremely complex, and it's something I think Michael's book has brought about points which to ponder over, because if a person has built a great body and is very good in the practical part, it needs a hardcore person to cruise through the soreness and the exhaustion and then go on and do it in a learned way. That is one very important thing. You need to be hardcore from within. But nevertheless, that physical part in itself is a mind game, and you need to not go overboard. You need to do it in a very informed way, for which you need education. Now, education in most of the states in India is in English, and in Hindi we don't have a structured literature about fitness. Everybody is getting it from abroad. What we are getting from the Indian knowledge is actually very ancient and actually the best. Like I started doing Kalaripayattu exercises now, which is the ancient martial arts. It's said to have been created by gods, not by human beings, and that was actually carried on by the Buddhist monks to the east. So we do have a great ocean of knowledge, but that has not been put across nicely into books and literature. It was coming from one generation to another generation. So the language barrier is definitely there, and so if a person speaks in English, he or she is perceived as being very, very knowledgeable. And if you don't speak in English, you may be the best, you may not be just a bookworm, but to put it into practice requires a lot of tips and change in the mindset and in a whole way new approach, and that comes from the people who know practical. So it has to be a combination of these two. And of course, as far as my competition is concerned, it's an absolutely different journey from, because it involves the federations and the society.
Right, and kudos for that. Well, Michael, coming back to you, in your book, you talk about, spending time with these trainers across India. What really got you interested in this topic? And if I may recall, you spent a decade on this project, didn't you?
Yeah, that was really on and off. So for a while, as I explained in the book, I was involved in Nalanda University, a new university was being set up in Bihar at the time, and that allowed me to be established in Delhi. And that does allow me to do research there. In later projects, I was based in the south. So I really took my time with this project, and the most important reason for that was that I felt that a lot what is being written about New India is kind of written in a hurry. So the sense of New India is of change and of rapid change and of needing to understand it quickly. But the more I spent time with these guys, I realized that change is often very slowly in individual lives, and to get a better understanding of how these lives develop, especially in terms of upward mobility, grabbing opportunities, bettering one's life. It takes a lot of time and effort to do that, and it often involves also a lot of failure. And I wanted to capture that in a subtle way instead of a hurried way where it all feels that these guys are basically caricatures for a new India, which they are not. They are living very much the life, the dream, but at the same time also often the nightmare of urban India. So it's a very complex story to capture.
Well, it's a very intriguing story. Also, in the book, you mention, Michael, that most of these trainers and fitness enthusiasts, are heavily under the influence of Hollywood and Bollywood, where these muscular bodies and these, stone abs are, drawing inspiration, but sometimes in a negative way too.
Yeah, I guess so. So Bollywood, of course, has been a major source of influence, in particular, sort of kick-starting with Om Shanti Om with Shah Rukh Khan, and then, of course, the development was really sealed in a sense, or really kicked. Amir Khan. And both movies have a strong sense of transformation, and that is, I think, key to understanding what men in general want to achieve in gyms. It's to transform their bodies. But transformation doesn't always come easy. You're showing some pictures now. Of course, it comes with a lot of protein powders and other sort of technologies, food technologies, that are not always the most healthy choice. Of course, a big problem in India is the kind of over-the-counter situation with anabolic steroids and growth hormones, which come with all sorts of health risks. And it's often sometimes somewhat paradoxical if you try to understand the fitness trainer as a health guru on the one hand, but his product on the other hand also one of risk-taking behavior. I'm not saying that it goes for all the trainers. The trainer, for instance, in the first chapter of the book would never consider taking anabolic steroids because he's well aware of the health risks, but especially when you, if you really want to grow also on the bodybuilding stage, it's often not really an option, if you know what I'm saying.
Right, and Declan, would you like to weigh in? I mean, there are certain very unhealthy ways when it comes to developing abs and that perfectly muscular body, as also Michael was pointing out. Have you come across clients who would perhaps want to get the shortcut and get it all wrong at the end of the day when it comes to massive health implications in the future?
Yes, well, see, it's an open secret, that, steroids are part of, if somebody wants to really go into the Mr. Olympia or, go try to be a Mr. Universe, it's just part of the deal. And I have a lot of friends, who used to do a lot of bodybuilding. I've been a fan, I used to follow it, probably go as many competitions to watch. And even when I was in South Africa, I went for Ronnie Coleman's sort of workshop, then Phil Heath. These are all these sort of Mr. Olympias. And it's part of the deal. It's an extreme sport. It's like, there are risks. People know they are taking risks. As long as they know, and then as long as what you're getting in return is what you're satisfied with, then it's a personal choice. But like the fact that steroids are a part of the bodybuilding culture or not is, I mean, it's like I said, no, it's even with Bollywood, the fact that at a certain stage, you know, there were these movies where you had guys with six packs and really sort of amazing bodies, and even now, so I don't look down on it. I don't support it. I think it's a
No.
personal choice. But it's part of the deal. I don't think you can do it
Yeah.
without, as much as I would love to, and then everybody would be, having a physique like a superhero. But then it's part of the deal, and as long as whoever tries it,
Yeah.
if somebody asks me, I say it's your choice. Get educated about it. It's like riding a fast motorcycle. It's enjoyable, it's fun, but you also have to know the risks involved. And you might be the stud with the fast motorcycle, but you need to know what you're doing. And then it's your choice. Who's anybody else to judge? But are they part of it? I mean, that's, I think, an open secret, if I may call it.
Right, an open secret there. Rita, you've been a bodybuilder and a female bodybuilder on top of that. You've been competing at bikini competitions as well. Tell us about your experiences. Um, how did you get there? What kind of, diet regimes and other training routines were part of your lifestyle? And did they have any health implications in the future? Did they alter any hormones which would perhaps become problematic?
Actually, now IFBB has come up with divisions which do not need it for women. For women, now women bodybuilding is absolutely banned since 2016. Last year, I was at Las Vegas at the Olympia, and they said they had announced that they'll get it back. And Linda Murray and the legends were all very happy. But then it's too freaky. It's really too freaky. For men, they may still go with it, but for women, it's like absolutely. It actually destroys you in not one, not two, but thousands of ways, even if you're taking a mild dose. So as they have all said, it's a personal decision. It's a personal choice. It's how much you want and what you want. But no matter whether it's a man or a woman, I feel that use for a particular competition or for a specific goal, it's worth it up to an extent. But the problem is when people get involved in it mentally to such an extent that they abuse it to an extent that it can damage them tremendously. So one should not be taking that step. If you consider just pure bodybuilding without the steroids, it is a very, very positive thing, because that lifestyle stays with you till the end of your life, and you're mentally so conditioned to keep yourself strong that then you can achieve anything else in all other fields that you're associated with. Like it's absolute fitness. But when it comes to competition, it is definitely an extreme sport. And, even if you want to get involved into it, you should know, you should make an informed choice. And now, since like I was the very first one, I didn't have much information. But now the girls who are coming in now, they know everything. They have examples before them, of people who have suffered, who have gone through surgeries, who have destroyed themselves. And, what do you get at the end of the day in a bodybuilding competition, except for that the $15 trophy is just not worth ruining your kidneys for. So that informed decisions must be taken. And yes, in women, if they are taking anabolic steroids, which are androgenic in nature, definitely they will harm the body tremendously. The periods stop and they have facial hair, and there are hundreds of things that happen, which completely. I've seen girls who have developed the Adam's apple also, who look good
Oh
otherwise.
my.
So I think, and
Oh my.
even a
So,
person like dehydrating yourself to an extent, keeping
That's another
yourself
thing.
in a negative calorie balance all the time.
also,
Sometimes you
also,
tend to
Rita,
lose it.
upsetting the leptin hormone as well, isn't it? When your diet is rigorous and your workout routines are really stretched out, I was also reading that it does affect the leptin hormone as well in the body, doesn't it?
The leptin hormone gives you kind of a satisfaction that you are your hunger has been satisfied. So the leptin and ghrelin hormone cycle stands for both men and women. You that can be controlled because bodybuilders are living in such extreme control that the secretion of ghrelin and leptin comes very beautifully to them because of the mind, because that has been secreted. But it's the androgynous effects of certain hormones. And like for weight reduction, people, they need food to exercise, they eat food, and then they take things like T3, which is the thyroid hormone, to increase the metabolism. And that can affect that the effect can come back a decade later, and you won't know that it's because of the thyroid hormone that you had taken 20 years ago. And similarly, the clenbuterol, which causes fibrosis in the lungs, because that's actually taken for asthma. So they are not even androgenic or anabolic. They're just there to lose weight, to help you lose weight. But you can lose weight anyway by by other methods. But when it comes to the last level of stage, especially at a pro level, you cannot do it without anabolic steroids. It's not possible. So then you have to decide whether you want to go any further,
Yeah.
or you just want to go on stage and you're okay with not winning a competition. You just want to learn the process and use it for your business or for pictures or for memories, or just that you want to achieve your body and present it on stage. But it's not going to make
Right.
you as glorious as Sachin Tendulkar in sports. No way.
Well, loud and clear message to everybody who's probably figuring out the larger plans of life by taking such anabolic steroids and diuretics, if I may add, as well. Shifting gears a little. Michael, you've been to a lot of gyms around the country, and you've seen that the number of gyms coming up in the country have increased drastically. I mean, I remember there
Yeah.
were very fewer gyms, and now there are chains after chains. But the demand for trainers has also increased. I mean, I've been training personally for the last 2 years, and I've changed about 6 trainers, trying to understand, knowledge, trying to gather knowledge from all 6 of them as to what they have to offer. And I have an experience of my own, but I want to understand, what is that barrier? Because some would know language, the others wouldn't know how to approach a client. Some are taught to deal with a particular client in a certain way. Some would be rather very expensive, and often the clients refuse to pay too much to a trainer as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so coming back what you said before about noticing how these gyms have mushroomed across India, this is actually the reason I got involved in this research in the first place, because in previous projects I was mainly involved in research in the IT industry, and those were the only places that really had gyms, the companies. It was a very Americanized thing, and then suddenly all these gyms started coming up, and one of the things I started wondering about is who are actually employed inside these gyms, and of course very quickly that became a place that lured youngsters who had already some interest in their own bodies to provide fitness training. But of course not all of them are really good at selling their message, at getting their message across. And the most successful trainers, I believe, are those that really have found a way to translate their own transformation into a workout strategy that works for their clients. So they're generally men who have really worked on their communication skills, have really thought about their own ways of, their own way they've transformed their body and how that might work for their clients. And in that sense, it's a total package. And it's, I think, a mistake to think that trainers with the biggest muscles or the deepest cuts are by default also the most successful trainers. In fact, I've often noticed that is just one small factor in the total package. Equally important is really finding a way to level with your client and understanding his life world, understanding where he comes from, his lifestyle, what he does for a living. And while the trainer does that, this also opens up an opportunity to learn for the trainer himself, because that's also a way to understand where your client comes from, and that might make available skills that you can incorporate in your own life. Like, I've met quite a few trainers who really describe these relationships as an opportunity to learn. So what they suggest is that by spending time with their clients, they're learning from their clients, and by reincorporating this back into their own comportment, the way they dress, the way they speak, they're also better able to level with their clients, and in the end level up in terms of earning. So being asked to get more money. Of course, another thing that comes with it is certification courses, which has by itself become a huge business in India. So from Gold's Gym to Reebok to all sorts of brands now offer certification courses that allows you to up your skills, from physiotherapy to dietitian to all sorts of related things to fitness. And clients do look into that. But I do believe it's also a way for trainers to build their own self-assuredness towards clients, to be able to say, listen, I've done all these certification courses. I'm more than just a trainer. I can also, I can help you with your diet. I can help you think through life problems. So they've
Absolutely.
become in sense that, no, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael, go ahead. No,
So
go
in a
ahead.
sense,
I
I think the most successful ones aren't just fitness trainers or personal trainers, but become life coaches in a sense. They become the total package. And I think especially upper middle class clients with a lot of money to spend and with very busy lives look for a person who can give them that kind of guidance beyond the gym. So that's what I wanted to say.
And Declan, Michael has made a very important point. When it comes to choosing a fitness trainer, for many clients, there are various set criterias. Moving beyond language, they would also want, probably to understand their own bodies better. I mean, they could have unrealistic goals like a very well-sculpted body in about 2 months, which doesn't happen if you're too overweight. There are unrealistic body goals as well. So have you come across such instances where clients have demanded, a certain results in a very short span of time, and have you been able to sort of explain to them?
Not with me now, because sort of I over time moved out of the regular gym instruction sort of thing quite a while ago. So I now mainly work exclusively with athletes, sports people, from badminton to boxing, shooting, shot put, various athletes, and sport being something which is drug tested, so the question of steroids just doesn't come up. And then I do work with a few very exclusive, like, high-end clients, industrialists and some statesmen. So very few. I think at a level, people are not that much obsessed with the body. But when you're somebody who's maybe an actor who wants to get into movies, and then there's a choice, and you've been told, hey, there's an action film, and if you have a body like this, then you might get in. Now that guy will be very desperate, to build that body, so he, gets that role. And this is where the pressure comes in, and this is where it's in Bollywood or modeling, steroids become part of the deal, because you just can't build that body that quick. As far as I go, I've never been an expert on steroids. I've never wanted to as well, because I mean, it's a different lifestyle.
No. I think let me rephrase, Declan. I was not talking about steroid. I was talking about anybody or everybody who perhaps not now, your experiences are different now, but from previous experiences when you would have started out, were because clients or people who are coming to the gym for the first time have really, have very different and unrealistic expectations. They want to get thin too fast, without following a particular diet, without exercising, without sleeping on time, without following a healthy routine. How do you deal with that, or how did you deal with that, at least if not now?
Ah, yeah, with that, I think I've had always a very clear thing, and I suggest this to a lot of young physiotherapists or even trainers whenever at conferences, if I'm, speaking, then I tell that, always speak the truth, be honest. Don't promise anything which is, not what you can do, because then even your credibility goes down because you're promising people something which is not going to be possible. Then when the time comes, people start doubting even what you can do. So I have had this thing always with people, that you come for fitness training. The idea is to become stronger so that you're able to function better and have a better quality of life. And that quality of life has to apply to what work you do. So for a student, it means, being able to go to college, being fresher, coming back. To a sports person, it's about performance. To a person who goes to office, it's about sitting there without back pain, looking decent. For a housewife, it's about, carrying the groceries, taking the children to school. So it has to apply, fitness has to apply to your quality of life. That is what fitness is. It's about being fit to do a certain job, and that is important. Fitness does not mean that one has to do 50 push-ups and, 100-kilo squat and only then you're fit. And this side has also come into sports. So, sometimes in sport, people say that you have to be fit and only then you're selected in teams and stuff. So I always say, fitness has to be applicable. It is subjective. What fitness is to a 70-year-old would be different to a 17-year-old. And this question of, people wanting to get sort of fit, if one might say, which is about looking good quickly. I think trainers need to always make sure that, they are clear about it with the client from the beginning. You come to the gym, you come to improve your strength. And in that, the side effect is that you would slowly lose some fat, you would maybe have a slightly trimmer waist. And if your genetics are good, then the slimmer person will just stay slim, eat all the nonsense they want and still stay. And you always have those friends, who just eat anything and they just don't put on. And then you have people who just eat one burger and then you think, no, that's it. So it's very important to explain this in the beginning and to get things clear so there's clarity.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, there's no clarity from the trainer, from the client, and there's a lot of expectations. And then both sides don't know what they're working for.
Absolutely.
So that's why, like I said, clarity is the key. What are you wanting? What are you wanting to be fit for? Not everybody wants to get into a movie. So I think that clarity from a trainer's
Absolutely.
perspective is important to be clear.
No.
Right. And the goal and the target you want to particularly achieve. Also, Rita, we don't see many female fitness trainers, or we do see them, but not so prominently. Do you think they face some kind of barriers, or is this industry dominated by male fitness instructors? What's your view?
Oh, yes, I have seen a wide range of female trainers. Like some of them are into sports, as some of them are living alone. They want pocket money, so they come to the gym to train. Then they have people, there are part-time yoga trainers. I see them coming in for a session or two. As far as weight training is concerned, unfortunately, if I may say so, because I have seen a lot of that, men, especially in the high-end gyms, the girls who come for Zumba, they do their stuff on stage and then they go, and there are a lot of people following them. But especially for weight training, I have seen people trying to take. People want to take the personal training sessions from girls because they want to flirt with them. Especially in the high-end gyms. I have seen so much of it. So that is something, I really should be mentioning it here because I have seen a lot of it. And now, definitely people who want serious weight training, they go to boys. Even the girls go to boys. And even the girls all over the world, even internationally, they say, if you want to lift heavy, if you want to really achieve that huge level of fitness, then you should be training with boys and training with them. Recently, I saw Kiran Bedi's interview. She said she was the only IPS officer, and she is so strong and fit, and she did it all because she didn't have a woman to compete with. So there is an entire range of girls. but definitely there is one common thing in them, that it is a male dominated field. Bodybuilding, it is, people get fascinated by seeing big muscles which are not there in girls. Even when there is a bodybuilding competition, the women's divisions, it's during the women's division that the audience takes a break or goes out for lunch, except if in the bikini contest or in the finals. So, definitely they feel that a man can do greater justice to that, especially the clients. And women, the women clients who would want to have female trainers, they hardly go to the gym. Very small percentage of women go to the gym. They feel that it's convenient for them to go in the park for a morning walk and just do a bit of yoga by watching some fitness channel, and then that's about it. So the percentage of women who go to the gym is lesser. And definitely, even if you look at the salaries of female trainers is lesser than that of men in most of the gyms, unless and until the girls, the particular trainer is very educated and she has a lot of knowledge. She is very, very well educated. I've seen girls who have done their PhD in nutrition from UK and from various prestigious universities. They are paid well, but then they move on to become lecturers. They don't remain trainers. Or the girls who have achieved that level of fitness would prefer to be models, or they're even striving for Bollywood, or become competitors and get sponsorship. So we definitely see less level of female trainers because of these 2-3 things, and that the female trainers never get the respect. They are treated like class 4 employees.
Well, very, very important point there, Rita. Michael, did you also come across gyms where you would find no female trainer, perhaps, or a trainer who wouldn't be found in the weight section, or as Rita was pointing out in that funny sort of expression where men would only sort of prefer to work out with female trainers just to flirt with them and not really looking for a serious engagement when it comes to work. Did you also come across something similar?
Not really. I mean, 10 years ago, things were really different. Same with bodybuilding competitions. I mean, the first one I attended like roughly 10 years ago didn't have a female competition, was actually pure bodybuilding. I mean, the entire field is developing right now. Also within male bodybuilding competitions, you see now different kinds of competitions, not just pure bodybuilding, but also swimwear competitions for men, male modeling. So the whole field is diversified, and that also goes for female trainers. I think most gyms these days simply do have female trainers, and they are not just in demand by female clients, but also by male clients, depending on the kind of classes they teach. So this has changed, I believe. But I just wanted to come back to something Declan said earlier, which I think is interesting in terms of the kind of thing clients look for when they go for fitness training. Because I was just rather clumsily trying to position my book behind it, but it's better if I show it like this. Like the reason this particular guy's on the cover is because he kind of shows a bodily ideal that is something that, yes, exactly, that's easier, that does fuel what has made fitness so incredibly popular. This is what a lot of men want to look for. And as Rita sort of rightly pointed out, the men who do want to look like that do not go for female trainers. They'll be looking for other male trainers who have, in a way, achieved this bodily transformation. This is always a transformation, right? You're not born this way. Nobody has a body like this by nature. It's something that really needs to be worked at. And often what you see, a body like this, is the result of years of training and of being very strict with your diet and otherwise with your lifestyle. And what appeals, because my book is mainly about men, so I haven't done a whole lot of research among female clients or female trainers, but what these men look for is that kind of potential for transformation in their own bodies, because that is also what is made popular in Bollywood, in Collywood, in Tollywood, in Sandalwood. All the movies industries work with notions of transformation as part of their movies itself. So as I, for instance, describe in the book, big Bollywood movies, but also increasingly Tollywood and Hollywood movies, all come with a story, a separate storyline about the lead actor's transformation, the transformation he has undergone for his movie part. And that is really what fuels fitness popularity in India at large.
Right, and Declan, would you perhaps want to give out some tips to trainers for a successful professional career moving forward, especially when their struggle is language and other kinds of barriers?
Okay, first, I mean, I think the first thing is to, gain knowledge, because what happens is a lot of trainers, I think, get caught up in this thing that, when they are into, say, competition, somebody's a power lifter or a bodybuilder, or could be a CrossFitter, or maybe a marathon runner. Uh, then you're a performer. When you become a teacher, when you're a trainer, now you're hired as a teacher in that gym or by that person or whatever. And in that sense, they have to understand that, their knowledge is what matters. So if you have the correct knowledge, the science behind it, and then of course you have to have the experience to teach, and then you have to have results at the end. To be known as a good teacher, you need to have results which have been there. You should have probably years, of some results to say, okay, that's what I've done, this is what I've done. Now, the first thing would be, that's why, to gain knowledge. And one of the strange things about the gym instruction field is that, of all the professionals who deal with the human body, right from, say, a nutritionist to a doctor, a surgeon, cardiac surgeon, orthopedic, physiotherapist, occupational therapist, all of these, you have to qualify to become that. Okay, to be an orthopedic surgeon, you have to qualify. To be a nutritionist, you have to qualify. A minimum is a 3-year degree. And overseas, I have friends, who in South Africa moved on to become personal trainers. But doing a degree there is sort of the norm in UK. The least would be, 1-year diploma course. Now, what happens, and which is sort of very unique in India, is that, a lot of the guys who become trainers, many of them are not qualified in any ways. They have good bodies sometimes. The other thing that happens is, sometimes if they are qualified, then it's a certificate course which is done on a weekend, probably a 4 to 8 weeks weekend course, which is, like in the evenings. And really speaking, there's not really a lot that you can, get there. So even after you qualify, no matter what, somebody could be a PhD, there's no end to it. So first, I would say for trainers is to always understand that knowledge is the key when you become a teacher, because you're no longer a participant anymore. The moment you're a teacher, your role is changed. When you're teaching, you're getting paid for knowledge, and you have to be spot on there. You cannot have, something which is in between, or it's my own personal philosophy. It cannot be. That would be, I would say, for the trainers. Second, I would say, one probably, and this in Michael's book, is mentioned to, from like the other chapters that I've skimmed through so far as well, about dealing with women clients. I think one of the major problems with, the very masculine body is that it's almost like a gangster profession, where it's all about like the cool dudes, with big muscles, come on massive bikes, and it's all about, the sort of, there's that brotherhood. It's like a gang culture, like, hey, we're all the dudes, and these pretty chicks come to the gym. And then also from a class point of view, a trainer gets access to a different society very quickly, which otherwise he wouldn't, and you get access to a society and you get it very respectfully. You're suddenly the sir, and all these young girls from colleges, professionals, they suddenly come and they're all being nice to you. And you're a guy who's, lived in a way where girls don't even look at you. They look down and they go around, when they see a man. So I think a lot of trainers sometimes find that, it comes as a shock to deal with women. And then also dealing with women in a setup where they are, they could be wearing sports bras, they could be wearing tight leggings, and then their bodies are exposed. So a lot of these men, again, testosterone driven men, they're all training for bodies, they're all pumped up. So at that level, they sometimes, I feel, don't understand how to deal with female clients, and they just appear too crude, and sometimes get too touchy. Sometimes literally, it becomes very awkward for the women. And I know a lot of women who told this to me. A lot of clients, who've said that no, they don't like to train because some of these guys look very creepy. They're too friendly and too touchy. So there are some rules, which I have, like when I teach guys, I say, if you have to touch a body part of a woman, you have to touch it with a pen. You shouldn't be touching with your hand. There's no need, you should touch it, and ideally you should not even have to touch it. So I would say knowledge is one, dealing with female clients, and third, always
Here's
remembering
one thing
that
I want to ask
what
you,
is your job.
Declan, because I've been training with a lot of male trainers for the past 2 years. Because I would like to begin my workout by stretching properly and then ending with a good cool down session. So during that, my trainer would massage my neck a little. If we've had a very heavy back day or a very heavy shoulder day, he would probably, massage my shoulder a little and bend my back just to push it to that stretch and mobility. I personally haven't taken it that way, but also at the same time, I've made it clear to my trainers that this is the only way possible, and that they're going to, if they're going to touch me, it cannot go beyond a certain point. Yes, there are issues. Many women out of that so-called fear wouldn't train with a lot of male trainers. Perhaps because of this problem. It's a valid point, but I think when it comes to my personal experience, that really hasn't happened, because I've always made my point here that you're not supposed to, go all funny with me, otherwise there'll be consequences. But not every woman can say that.
Exactly. And I think, like what you said, see, you're comfortable because you know where it has to stop and you're very clear, and that has come through experience. Somebody who's new wouldn't maybe have that. And sometimes maybe the trainer doesn't have a bad intention, but his behavior can be bad. He might not
Yeah.
know that the way he's touching is inappropriate, though his intentions are not, bad. And I think that's the way to remind to do a good job, and this probably applies to any profession. Is you always have to remember what you're paid for. So if, let's assume I was a trainer, okay, what I would do is I would maybe, and I might be wrong, but I would not massage your neck. And you might say, hang on, that's a horrible guy. Why? Because
Yeah.
I'm not a masseur. You haven't hired me as a masseur. And this might be very cold,
Okay.
but that's how I think with when it comes to a good professional relationship, it's good because you never know. Today I might massage your neck. Next thing I start going down. Now where do we stop? So that's my opinion. But again, there can be a very trusting relationship with the trainer. You know where it is. But for me, when I teach the guys, I tell them, just be clear what you're paid for. Do that. Don't become the, agony aunt when somebody, a woman comes and talks about her husband's problems, or, some girl talks about her boyfriend's issues. Don't be the person to talk about that. That's not what you're paid for. You know, over time,
Right,
some
right,
people
right.
develop special relations over time. 5 years later, 10 years later, there are some who become very good friends. But when they are paying you for it, they can never be your friends. So I have this rule, if there's money involved, they are not your friends. Friends don't pay you, right? So I think that clarity. So for trainers, one is, I
Absolutely.
think, first is education, being good, handling themselves with women, I think, which is a huge challenge for these male guys. And third is knowing what you have to do. Stick to it, stick to your job, you don't get into trouble.
Right. Right, Declan. But moving on to you, Rita, Declan made a very interesting point. There's a lack of female trainers, and there are male trainers who are almost incapable, or let's say, fall short of interacting with women in a particular way. Also, for clarity, Declan, the whole package comes with the cool down exercises and everything. We always have an understanding before I start my training sessions with trainers. So I'm just going to minus that point there.
Yeah.
But Rita, Declan has made a very important point. Most of these trainers don't interact with women, and what to tell them and how to go about it. Although Declan has elaborated, but from a woman's point of view, what would you say?
Can you repeat the last sentence?
I was saying that Declan made a very important point where he talked about male trainers not being able to interact with female trainers in a certain way where it would be appropriate. There have been instances, luckily in my case, there haven't been instances, even though the neck massage was involved, Declan. But the point we're trying to make here is, as a woman who understands this profession really well, what would be your advice to these male trainers when it comes to dealing with female clients?
I see this. India is a very complex country. There are different kinds of people, different kind of society. There's so much of diversity, even within micro societies. Another thing, another perspective which I would like to add. So, there is a lot of lack of uniformity. So you can't, say there's one rule stands for all. There are trainers who are, actually intimidated by women also. They, even when it is sometimes required to touch or to interact, they may just not interact. There may be trainers who may be wanting to go just to female clients because they feel good about it, and they feel good, oh, the women are now looking at me and asking me, trying to talk to me, and they want tips from me. But there are trainers who are so scared that they'd rather not take female clients at all. And but if at all they do, now let me give you an example. You spoke about the neck massage. There are two kinds. Even you compare it with the beauty salons. No, that's a very relevant point. I have never got a massage from a trainer in the gym. I feel that the body has an inherent capability to heal, and we must build that endurance and the way we keep a stance of our muscles. But I am very open to it because every woman might not have the time to actually go to a physiotherapist. It's so difficult in practical situations to actually go. Sometimes you may just need.
Plus,
Sometimes you
Rita,
may need.
it doesn't have to be so elaborate, It doesn't have to be so elaborate as well. It
Exactly.
could just be,
Exactly. I'm coming to that. If you go
releasing
to
the
a
tension
salon,
into the muscle that has been worked on.
yes, if you go to a salon and you get a manicure and pedicure, the boys massages, but they treat us like, their mothers and sisters. So it is the equation that you actually develop from both sides. And, you can be very, very objective towards it. Your hairdresser is touching you. There's so many people, there are doctors who touch you. It's fine. But it doesn't have, it is how both the people deal with it. The trainer must look how comfortable the woman is, that particular woman is, and if it is really, really needed. I had an incident when somebody was trying to teach me a chin up. That was in 2004, and he touched me in a way which I was uncomfortable with, and I spoke about it, and he blamed me instead, that I'm misunderstanding and I have a dirty mind, and so on and so forth. So I really had to, the whole thing came upon me. So it's from how the equation is from both sides, and how much a specific thing is needed. Sometimes you may be lifting a weight that is so heavy that to protect you or to save you or to for a
Absolutely.
fraction of a second, you might need that push. So it really depends on that. That's my take on it. I think we should be open, but as a general rule, what he says is absolutely true, that you can keep it very, very professional. You are being paid for something. You'll never get into a mess. And wherever there is a
Of course.
business deal, where there's a professional deal, don't mix it with personal situations. And yes, you're not a psychotherapist or whatever, but you need to understand the other part of the psychology. Like, if when a woman comes to train to a gym, she's just not coming so easily. There is a lot more to it. How exhausted she gets, what work she has to do at her home, and how practical it is to push her every day. How slow should I go with this woman? What is her how much is her ability to pick up a certain movement? What is her progression on a daily basis? If these things are understood, there will be a relevance of the kind of life she lives otherwise, and the kind of emotional stress she has. So it has to be very, very subjective and on a one-to-one basis.
Right, and coming back to you, Michael, very, very valid points there, Rita. Thank you so much. Michael, would you like to add to what Rita has just said?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, for most fitness trainers, this is obviously a learning curve. A lot of them do certification courses. Some of the certification courses come with understanding how to deal with female clients. Of course, the majority of them deal with male clients mainly. But finding a way on how to be part of a woman's or even a man's space and how to interact is, I think, part of the total story of the fitness trainer. He's constantly thinking about how to make that work best, because there aren't really, like Declan also said, there isn't really an actual education involved, an actual certification of a couple of years where you learn all that. A lot of them learn by doing it, finding out, and by making mistakes. And often, I think what I found really interesting is a lot of them also go through a process where they have to let go of certain inherent truths that they've learned from home, coming from lower middle class or working class families where dad's word is final, etc. We shouldn't forget that most fitness trainers don't come from families where anybody else has ever been a fitness trainer. I mean, they come from families where everybody else done something else, and they are doing something completely new. And one thing that I've always found so remarkable about their trajectories is as how they've really embarked on a road towards really becoming their own persons, no longer doing something necessarily that the family or the community or their caste expects, but really something else. And that already makes them probably more open than most men in Indian society to think about, how what it means to interact with women on a daily basis as their clients and as people they need to be close to. So I think that is one of the things we should not forget about trainers, that they learn by doing and they do something different from anybody else in their families.
Right. And Declan, your last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like what Michael said, about the same points. I thought trainers, when they get into the field, it is while dealing with women, they have learned certain things in the house. Some of them who come from maybe very traditional homes, where it's a very male-dominated society. The father comes in, and the mother has always waited for the father to eat, and then she eats, and then the father is the guy. Now that guy coming to a place where there's, a CEO of a company who's a woman, who's very dominant. She comes in her own car. Now, how does he deal with her? How does he know that he has to call her ma'am? But in the house, he's always known his sister is the second sort of class citizen. So I think that's where trainers need to realize that, ultimately you're doing a job, and you can go back home and probably the guy becomes the same. Ideally, it's of course good that they change and we all realize that no, men and women are equal. But at work, you cannot afford to ever have your personal thing come in, because your profession and personal can never mix. Your personal is your own life, what you do. It's not what you're paid for. But when you're paid for, you have to deliver. And that's why, like I said earlier, behavior, whether it's your education, whether it's results, you're hired for something. So when there's clarity, it becomes very, very easy. But if there's no clarity, about what is my job, what am I doing here? If I'm hired by a gym, what am I doing? If I go to somebody's house, what is it? And sometimes this lack of clarity is what makes a lot of trainers, I feel, forget where they really belong. Because also what happens, trainers come, if not from, a certain society, even if somebody's, an educated guy, somebody starts his own gym, happens to be from the upper middle class. The role is still going to be as a trainer. You could come from any class, but your role is as a trainer, and the role could be probably the same as compared to maybe, a hairdresser or a person you go to for makeup, or you go for certain things. And once we don't forget our roles, I think the relationships always become better and easier. So some trainers, I feel, sometimes forget when they hang around with, clients who come from a different status. Somebody comes in a BMW, and next thing, the trainer is called one day, hey, come, let's meet up for coffee someday. And I've seen this happen a lot of times. Sometimes clients do this knowingly, they'll take the trainers out on a sort of meal or something, and they think, okay, now sort of I've got these guys, as my friend. The trainer starts thinking, whoa, this big shot guy called me, now he's my friend, And I think in work, one has to be very clear that you cannot be friends. Something is wrong if you're being friends what you're paid for. You can be good people over time. So I think that clarity is also what trainers need to realize, that these are clients. Okay, they can never be your friends, not because they are bad people, but that's how the relationship is. That's what you're paid for. The moment you forget that, that's where the mistakes happen. Like a guy talks to a girl,
Right.
she smiles at him, she comes, then he starts thinking of 100 different things, or some, young rich kid calls him home, and he starts thinking, whoa, next thing, I'm going to be his friend. If you're clear, that's why I said in the beginning, whether it's about delivering results, what's your job, what is the thing that you're coming for, why do you work in this position? I think clarity is the key in a lot of things in life, and I think that's what our trainers
Right.
need to realize, that they are trainers, do the job, train, go home, be at peace.
Right. Rita, would you like to add anything to that? Your last thoughts?
Yeah, as far as women are concerned, a woman always knows the touch and the way a man is approaching her. There is a sixth sense, and that is undeniable. So I think that should be the key, and a woman should know, when it's wrong, it's really wrong. Men also, their conscience does tell them how we are approaching them. So that is with the men and women. And I would like to say, for last thoughts, that this book which has been written by Michael is like is actually should bring about a paradigm change. Till now, I have been in this industry for very long now, and we have seen people trying to educate themselves, learning about nutrition, diet, exercise, modalities, and physiotherapy and all the technical part, or the politics between the commerce, the supplement companies and the equipment companies or the federations. We have seen everything here, and the emotions and the relationships and the equation. But to look at it from a very detached perspective, and how it from a societal point of view, that how Bollywood has affected this, and that there is one more form of business and employment in the society. This is a world of its own, and how the economic social economic changes have been brought about so dramatically. I have seen mathematics lecturers at the highest level. They are earning much less than some of the trainers. And also how desperate a person can go with steroids. This is something which should have been done, and it's amazing that Michael from so many countries far away from us and so many kilometers away from us has done this from a detached perspective, and I would really like to thank you. I'm so honored that in some way I've been a little part of it. To write a book, people write it in 6 months, and he's taken 9 years to do that. That is hardcore, authentic research. That is real substance, and it can bring about a change in the society. I hope that more and more people will read it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. Michael, anything you'd like to add, perhaps about your book?
Yeah, well,
Potential readers?
For potential readers. So I think that what I've tried to do in the book is really sort of give a total overview. It isn't just about fitness trainers and training or personal training. It's also about life in India's big cities and how people experience change in India, how things have changed for them, how it also have brought, how that has brought new insecurities. So while the book spends a lot of time inside gyms, it actually spends quite a bit of time outside gyms at bodybuilding competitions with bodybuilding federations and with others talking about how they see their own opportunities in Indian society. And that, I think, was for me a very rewarding exercise, because I did it over a long period of time. I kind of saw people develop and change in their own lives, and that really allowed me to gain a better understanding of what it means to live in what people so often refer to as New India. So I think, I hope the reader will see how these things come together and will like the book, obviously. And here finally, I would definitely like to thank Rita and Declan also for their years of support, because their insights, as with so many other trainers and people that I've interviewed and met, have been quite instrumental to all of this. I couldn't have done that without you guys. So thank you, Rita and Declan, and all the others who were part of this project over so long.
Right, and with that, it's a wrap on this discussion. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and all the best with the book, Michael. I hope you find millions and millions of readers worldwide, which sure is very interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us along.